Norwegian strawberries are outstanding in flavor and size. Raspberries are also plentiful in Norway. Raspberries often grow wild along the country road. All you have to do is stop your car along the edge of the road, reach out the window, and gorge yourself on fresh raspberries. You often find signs in English throughout the city, since Norwegians realize that most foreign visitors can't speak Norwegian. Local residents want to make it convenient for travelers when they're visiting Trondheim. The most impressive cathedral in all Norway is here in Trondheim. It was here where most of Norway's kings were crowned. Its construction was started back in the 12th century. Today, it is still the official seat of the Archbishop of Norway. Adjacent to the cathedral, in a small park, is a long column upon which stands a statue of Olaf Tryggvason, that Viking king who founded the city 1,000 years ago. When the sun sets, you soon realize that the night sky doesn't get dark in the summer in Norway. In fact, you will not see the stars in Norway in the summer. This is quite a surprise to many visitors. Norwegians tend to be more conservative than their Scandinavian neighbors. Instead of going to nightclubs, the popular pastime is to go strolling or window shopping after dinner. As we continue farther northward with the coastal steamer, we come to the Arctic Circle in the island of Værø. About 1,000 people live on this island, most of whom are fishermen and a few farmers. Although they are a bit remote, they have all of the modern conveniences: indoor plumbing, electricity, telephones, television sets, and modern schools. So they have just about everything that they need. It's also in this area that they do a great deal of fishing for cod in the winter months. These pieces of cod are hung on high racks and dried until the summer, at which time they are cut down and used for a variety of commercial purposes, most of which to provide the Scandinavians with a Christmas delicacy called lutefisk or lutfisk. It is made by taking a dried piece of codfish, which incidentally is about as hard as a board at this time, and then soaking it in a solution of lye about 6 weeks before Christmas. It's kept in that lye solution about 3 weeks, during which time the fish becomes soft and pliable. It is then rinsed in water for another 3 weeks to get rid of the poisonous lye. It is then cooked on Christmas Eve and served as one of the traditional dishes. It might sound terrible, but it does taste pretty good. That is, if you don't have to eat it more than once a year. Here on Værø is a huge bird sanctuary where we find millions of seagulls, puffins, and other seabirds nesting in the rocks. Occasionally, you may find local residents coming here to gather seagull eggs. They told me that they prefer seagull eggs to chicken eggs. Some environmentalists would be critical of what you are seeing, but please keep in mind that they do this strictly for their own consumption. It is not done commercially. They take very few eggs compared to the millions that are found here. Anyway, who in his right mind would want to risk his life climbing among these rocks, gathering seagull eggs, unless he had a real craving for them? We were curious to know how they tasted. They were kind enough to give us a few. We discovered that the shell of the seagull egg is quite firm, and you really have to bang it on the side of the frying pan in order to crack it. It's also rich. Once in a while we did get an egg with a slightly fishy flavor, but most of the time it tasted very similar to a chicken egg. As we continue a little farther northward with the coastal steamer, we come to the Lofoten Islands, certainly among the most beautiful along the entire Norwegian coast. It's in this area where they're doing a great deal of oil exploration. Oil was discovered in the North Sea off the southern tip of Norway. There are now finding huge oil and gas deposits along the entire coast of Norway, even north of the Arctic Circle. So it looks as though Norway is fast becoming a major oil-producing country. The people are a bit apprehensive about their new role in the world. Prior to this time, life was uncomplicated. They didn't have to worry about foreign intrigue and espionage because they didn't have anything that the major powers of the world wanted. Now with this oil, what will happen? What at first might appear to be a blessing could ultimately be a tragedy for these people. The Norwegians are well aware of the hazards and they're proceeding very cautiously. Today, petroleum engineers are coming into the Lofoten Islands and to the town of Svalbard, which is the provincial capital of Lofoten. Today, it's a picturesque fishing community, but because of the discovery of oil and gas, who knows how it will look 10 years from now. During the summer when tourists are here, we find very few fishing boats about. Some of the fishing villages are totally deserted. Occasionally you may find a fisherman going out into the bay, catching a few fish with line and hook. He does this strictly for the family's needs. If he catches more than what he can use, well, he'll give the extra fish to his friends, or perhaps leave the fish off at the local market. But if you happen to be here in the months of January, February, and March, this is what you will see. Millions of fish along the Norwegian coast. The reason that there are so many fish during this time of the year is that the fish will leave the cool Arctic waters and come along the Norwegian coast into the warm Gulf Stream to do their spawning. Then the fishermen are out by the thousands. Yes, fishing is one of the major industries of Norway. They've developed many modern fishing techniques that are used around the world today. Norwegians have also been leaders in whaling and have developed many modern techniques there as well. In recent years, Norwegians have placed a partial moratorium on whaling because the whale population has declined to a dangerously low level. However, other international competitors have not seen fit to stop the whaling. Unless they do, these mammoths of the sea may become extinct because of man's greed. We're going to visit a small fishing village along the southern tip of the Lofoten Islands. Its name, Rene. Population, 650. It was certainly the most picturesque fishing village I had visited. It was surrounded by magnificent fjords and rugged mountain peaks. If you would like to visit Rene, and you happen to be in Oslo, for example, you would have to fly northward for about 2 hours to the town of Bodø on the Arctic Circle on the mainland. There you would board a coastal steamer and stay on that for several hours until you reach the town of Svalbard in the Lofoten. Then you would have to rent an automobile and drive for 2 days along narrow dirt roads, crossing fjords and sounds on those small ferry boats. Eventually, you would reach Rene. You might say to yourself, I must be at the most remote village in all Norway. That just isn't true. There are even more remote villages in the nearby fjords, and this shuttle boat will take you to them. Some of those remote villages may not have more than a couple of homes, others up to a dozen. Every morning, this boat will go out, gather the school children from the villages, bring them back here to Rene, and at the end of the day, return the children to their respective villages, some of which are an hour and a half's boat ride away. So some of the school children must spend 3 hours a day on this boat.